Hello and welcome back to JLXP. Just wrapped up long conversations with both Aux and Emily. The Aux conversation, we talk about the LCK split, spend a lot of time on HLE, a good amount of time on T1 in our preview of MSI. Then I have Emily on. We talk about three teams mainly. We talk about TES. We talk about how WE messed everything up. And then we talk about how BLG and Knight specifically are on this generational run. So really long podcast today. If you don't want to listen to one of the teams or one of the regions, you can use the time stamps to skip around. But thanks for coming to the channel. I've really enjoyed having everyone tune in for Mind the Gap this split. This is a classic JLXP MSI preview prep call. So really, I'm relying on the expertise of Aux and Emily to fill me in on the LCK and the LPL. And I figured, why not share it with as many people as possible? So please, like the video, leave a comment, show Emily and Aux some love. They are doing this just because they love League of Legends, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Aux is up first. Aux, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm at my parents' house because my little brother's getting married soon.
Congratulations.
In the UK. And so you can see this is actually a very famous tree.
Is it?
The Sycamore Gap. Yeah. So it was a famous tree, and it actually very recently got cut down by some hooligans.
What?
It was actually really this tree's been there for a long. It was there for a long time. There's films that's been in. I'm pretty sure it was in like one of the Robin Hood films or something. It's like super famous, super iconic. And then like less than 5 years ago or something, it got cut down.
God damn.
And people are pretty pissed off. So
I really do like the aesthetic you have in the room though. Like there's not many orange rooms, but that's a really nice orange room. And then the orange tree matches everything. It's way better. I have dog treats in the background, a door. Who's the real professional here?
Yeah, it looks a lot more orange in the video than it does when I look at it. But, why not? It does look very sunny and bright.
It's thematic. You specifically picked this room because HLE is your first seed, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. I actually asked my parents to redecorate when HLE were the first seed. This was originally actually a gold room because of Gen G. But they ain't going, so unlucky.
Cut the video. Okay. We haven't talked in a while. I got really busy. I wanted to do more LCK check-ins with you, but time has passed. The last conversation you and me had about the LCK, I believe, was at First Stand when I was prophesizing that BNK Fearex was in fact not a very good team. Do you remember these conversations? I was saying, where do you put them in spring? And you wouldn't put them below 5th. What did they finish? Like 7th, 8th?
Okay, look, in fairness, they finished 7th. Okay. And there was a little bit of shenanigans afoot. Also, they were pretty close to being 6th, right? They definitely, there was a long gap between 5th and 6th, but they were pretty close to being 6th. But let's dive into the BNK Fearex situation because last we saw them,
that's fun. They
got 3-0'd at First Stand. Not a unique situation for LCK teams getting 3-0'd at First Stand by G2. But they then came back and had a rough start. You know what? I'll go a step further. They had a very rough start. What week was it actually that they got their first... Because they lost their first week. They lost their first 2 series.
Oh, geez.
And then they lost the 3rd series. Oh, and then their first series win was against DNS, which... I'm going to be honest with you. That was a bit of a freebie.
DNS won one series.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yes. So they won against DNS, and then they lost their next series. Then they won against Kiwoom, but then they never really regained that same mojo they had at First Stand. Yeah, they struggled. And then I don't know if you heard about the roster swap they went through.
I have heard about this. Young Diablo.
It was a little bit...
Young Diablo.
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't happy with the situation.
Yeah, so basically there was a roadshow scenario, and Diablo did not want to do the fan meet after the roadshow because they'd lost, and the org was not happy about this, and Diablo was not happy about them not being happy about this. It seems there were some internal issues prior to this. This was not like the one thing that caused the break apart, but it kind of seemed like the straw that broke the camel's back. And then they ended up doing a trade with Nongshim, and Nongshim swapped Taeyun for Diablo. And I think everyone looked at this and went, wow, Nongshim are getting such a good deal here. And we imagined that there was some, again, don't know the details of it, but we imagine that Nongshim did also pay extra. The assumption is
Probably.
for Diablo. I
Yep.
can't confirm or deny this, but that's what people assumed. And then they swapped 80 carries, and then immediately B&K FearX looked way better. Like way better. Nongshim like really struggled, continued to struggle. And like I don't think this is purely on Diablo. I'm not gonna blame it purely on him. The team did not look better. The team did not look like suddenly they got things together, because they looked bad before and they looked kind of bad after. They actually started the season pretty well. They went undefeated for a time, but to be fair, they were playing against some easier teams. Like their week 1 was undefeated, and they was like, oh yeah, cool, Nongshim, yeah, week 1, great. And then week 2, they fell apart. So they had 1 week of success, where we were hyped about them. Then they just fell apart.
It seems.
And then they got Diablo in, and they fell apart more. And then B&K FearX, they got Taeyun in, and they actually looked good. And it looked like people were kind of speculating, maybe it's not just Diablo. Maybe Kellen is just great at elevating his AD carry.
And then, even with that, BNK FearX ended 7th, Nongshim ended 9th. So you had some nice side plots in Road to MSI.
I mean, that was fun.
We need to talk about the format. It's a little bit strange because I feel like there's actually, your league is so popular now. You're probably more popular than like the LCS and the LEC for a lot of English fans, but I'm still going to go over this because I haven't had a chance to watch like that much. I've been able to follow it and look at bits and pieces, but like the story of the split to me was KT popped off early. Genji was slumping. Then Genji started to pull it back. But then at the very end, you almost had 4 teams kind of all jostling for those top 4 positions with Hanwha, T1, Genji, and KT. For like the top 4 standings, KT ended 13-5. Genji and T1 14-4, Hanwha 15-3. Did they have the 5 losses way before?
No. If you look at the win streaks, so T1 finished on an 8 win streak, Genji finished on a 4 win streak.
Right.
And HLE, even though they finished on only a 1 win streak, they only had 3 losses overall.
Yeah.
So HLE, T1, and Genji, they were on an incredible pace towards the end of the season. HLE were on an incredible pace throughout the entire season. And even though they lost they did have a loss towards the end of the season, that was to Genji, and it was a 2-1. It was pretty close. So basically, you're right. T1 Genji, slow start. Very uncharacteristic for Genji, not uncharacteristic for T1. But towards the end of the season, these teams, incredible pace, just rose up the ladder. KT, great start. They were undefeated for a long portion of the start of the split, but that's why they just quickly started tanking. And obviously, the fact that they finished 13 wins, like it still looks very close, right? But it kind of shows how much momentum they were losing. The fact that they had such a good start and they finished below T1 and Genji, their like latter end of the season was not nearly as pretty. Like if you look at some of the matches, like the last match of the season, they 2-0 DNS, but everyone does that. They lost to T1 2-0. They lost to Genji 2-0. They just beat Nongshim 2-1. They did beat HLE, so that was like a crazy upset, but that was kind of a turnaround where like they'd been losing. Like they lost to B&K FearX in week 6. They lost to Bro 2-0 in week 5. There was some good matches from KT. I'm not going to say it's all doom and gloom, but they definitely weren't the team we saw at the start of the season. Yeah. And there were some question marks, whereas T1 and Genji, like I said, T1's 8-win streak was just like, they were in crazy form. I think there was definitely a point where it was like top 2, and then it became top 4, and then towards the end, we were kind of in the mindset it became top 3 again, and that kind of happened in Road to MSI.
I want you to teach me a little bit more about HLE because their LCK Cup fraudulent last place, I think, comes even more into view here. Again, I just can't believe they won 2 matches and finished 10th. That format's fake. You can't go 2 and 3 and be last place out of 10 teams. There's no way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we talked about this before.
We did. But we don't need to belabor the point.
Yeah, we don't need to go over that again. So I think the big thing that they were struggling with was Kanavi, super aggressive, hyper aggressive, crazy player. And it was very much the discussion we had was they either need him to chill out or they need to get on board. And I got to tell you, they got on board.
Okay.
This team was so aggressive. Kanavi played, I will say he was a little bit more measured. It did feel a bit more calculated, but the team was just locked in with him. They were very aggressive. It felt like this team was playing heavily through the solo lanes. Zeka was in terrific form, huge amount of POMs. And his champion pool, I was one of the big critics of Zeka. The last year with Peanut, I feel like he was underwhelming. I think he struggled in Fearless. His champion pool, it feels like he's really rounded it out. He was playing things like Victor and having a great ton of success. He was playing a lot of mages. It wasn't just the typical like melee picks that we know him for. And him and Kanavi, tremendous pair. Zeus as well worked really well with them. I'd say the weak point of this roster, and weak point sounds harsh. I don't think they've been weak, but I'd say the weaker point was the bot lane. Sometimes in the 2v2, these two went super hot. And there was some games where Gumayushi got really heavily targeted, and that's less so about him, but more so about other teams. Like, we're going to kill him like 8 times. And I mean that literally, because they actually had games where he was on Ashe, and I need to get the scores up, but it was something crazy like... It was something like...
I'll grab it. There's a 0-8-14 Ashe game here in a victory against Nongshim in an EWC qualifier.
And there was another one on Ashe where he went like... Yes, there was a 0-8-14. There was also like a 1-7-7 Ashe game. They had these games where like the enemy team would just kill Gumayushi like...
Oh yeah, 1-7-7 Ashe against BNK Furex. And then they win.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won the game.
Yeah, and they would just kill him. They would just kill him. They would just kill him. And HLE are like, whatever, bro. Like we actually, you are allowed to do that. Keep going. And then Guma would hit a good arrow, and then they'd win the game. So,
yeah. Meanwhile, Zeka's 7-0 on Mel. Zeus is 3-0 on Mbessa. Okay, understood.
Yeah,
understood.
So it definitely felt like this team was already in terrific form, already knew how they wanted to play the game. But I think the meta wasn't the best fit for them, despite the fact they were the best team in the league, because a lot of teams were playing heavily through bot 2v2 because, we had so many strong pairings. But this team felt more like they wanted to abandon bot, let Gumayushi play weak side, and play through their strong solo lanes. Would you believe Road to MSI comes along, new patch hits, what do? They nerf range supports, they try and buff melee supports, they buff grubs. They basically say, hey, we want supports to roam more. And HLE are like, bet. We already wanted to do that. We have Delight on our team who loves melee supports. We have Guma, who is the weak side king. And I think this is very hindsighty, because I did think that T1, based on the last weeks of form, I predicted T1 to beat HLE 3-2. But given the result we got, HLE beating T1, and when you look at how the meta shifted, it makes sense. It makes sense that HLE, they were already playing this way. The meta favored them in how it shifted, and they kind of just fit exactly what they wanted to do. They just slid into the new meta, and were like, we were already doing this. We're completely fine with this. So that is how the first match of Road to MSI went. It was a 3-1 victory for HLE. Yep. Now, it wasn't super clean, that series. They had a massive draft edge over T1 in multiple ways. It just felt like there was one game in particular where I think T1 really drafted themselves into a hole. That was specifically the one where, like, I'll get it up.
So quickly. I did catch up on that match already, the T1 versus HLE Road to MSI. I think one thing that I want to just confirm with you is they were still 15-3 in the regular season, and that was before the meta change. They only dropped games to the other top teams. Like, they went 1-1 against Genji, 1-1 against T1, and 1-1 against KT, I believe. But it did feel, watching from afar, like those top 3, as well as KT for the first half of the split, were all just trading blows with each other. So it almost felt like you're just like rolling this 3-sided die and seeing what it comes up with. And those were going to be like the 2 teams that go to Road to MSI. But from what you're saying is actually... Because I had a question here, like, how do you feel like HLE actually plays? Since last year you described them to me as Viper Life Esports, it almost feels like they've done the opposite of that, where Guma's now the lowest resource, and they can put more into the top side of the map, which is really what the strengths of those players should be. Like Zeka, Zeus, you don't want to really put Zeus on a weak side tank. You want to be able to play through him. So it feels like it makes more sense. And then you're saying the thing that made the die like a little weighted towards their side at the end is just the fact that they could play more melee supports, roam more, and have a little bit more topside power with grubs.
Yeah, I think, as much as that is their identity. I think you have still had instances where Zeus has played weak side tanks and Guma has had more resources.
They can
But
still
I
do
do
it at a
think
high
that
level.
they can still do it at a higher level. But I do think that is, as you said, putting Zeus in a high resource top laner and having Gumishi play weak side, I think that is the style that they were already leaning towards, and then the meta shift did help them out a lot. I think the fact that they had such an incredible run in the regular season, despite the meta not being the most favorable for them, and then shifting to a better meta for them, just is kind of testament to how strong this team was.
Right.
And I feel like part of the reason they were a little, I don't know if you saw the predictions going into that series, but it was quite
Yeah.
heavily T1
Yeah.
favored, is because T1 had big win streak end of the season, as you saw, 8-win streak. In the last couple of weeks, Gen G had beaten HLE and T1 had beaten Gen G. And so a lot of people were thinking T1 big win streak, they'd beaten Gen G, had beaten HLE. That was kind of people's view. And I think the two big factors that came into it was how the meta shift impacted HLE. They really benefited from it. Because again, now we know from seeing Road to MSI how our teams have adjusted. There were a lot more melee supports than we saw in the regular
Yeah,
season.
seriously.
A lot more play around the top side. Like we saw not just HLE, but other teams doing a lot more abandoning the AD carry and roaming up towards the top side of the map. And also, HLE's preparation seemed really good in the draft in particular. We had a funny moment where we had two series back-to-back days. So it was the HLE T1 series, and then it was the Gen G KT series, where both series had like Jace, Ryze, Ziggs, Camille on one side, and then Sion, Ezreal, Karma on the other. Like
That's
exactly
funny.
the same. And it was
That's
like, are
funny.
you just copying the homework?
Yeah.
But I think the other thing with HLE is there was like a draft later in the series where T1 went Renekton, Neferi, Galio, and then Lucian Milio. So really short range composition. And then they were into Shen, Lee Sin, Cassiopeia, Kog'Maw, Lulu. And if anyone's thinking Shen, Kog'Maw, Lulu, that is what G2 played at First Stand when they bopped Gen G. So maybe take a little inspiration from that. But this composition was just like anti-melee composition
Yeah.
against like a very short-range melee comp. They completely flattened them. And for basically the whole series, HLE had early leads. And I think it's kind of testament to T1 in some ways that they genuinely had weaker drafts for most of the series and they got crushed in the early game for most of the series. But for a lot of the series, they made the team fights really competitive. So credit
Yeah.
to them for that. They actually fought back in a lot of these games from a big deficit, and I think that was a little bit scary. Like that game one, HLE had a humongous lead.
Yeah.
T1 fought back and made it close, but then ended up losing out. But that was a really exciting series. It was a really fun series. But I think HLE proved in that one that they are definitely our strongest LCK team right now.
I mean, game one, since you bring it up, 8,000 gold lead at
Yeah.
26, 27 minutes. It holds at 8,000 for like all the way until 30 minutes. 33 minutes, big throw fight. It ends up being an even gold game with an Ocean Soul for T1. And then they just lose a fight in mid lane and the game is over. It was like the biggest
They just get
snapback.
picked.
It was literally they had completed the comeback and then essentially had a throw because they were ahead in that game with the Ocean Soul and the gold being tied, which is crazy.
And you know what it was? It was Delight on the Camille. Had a crazy game.
Yeah.
He set up that final pick as well. And I think, so we obviously had a lot of range supports throughout the season. Had Delight on range supports is not bad at all. And when I say not bad, it sounds like I'm downplaying him. I don't mean that at all. He is very good on range supports. He's very solid. They went 15-3 with him playing mostly range supports. But when he's on melee supports, different beast completely. Different beast completely. And just the fact that we're getting to see him on range supports again, like we always think about the big picks for Delight are like the Alistair, the Rakan. Seen him on the Camille and just like him absolutely dominate. And we had, I don't want to grill him for this, but Effort played Camille on that weekend as well, and he went like 1-9 or something. It was tough. It was rough to watch. Camille is not a pick that you can play lightly in the support role. Very easy to int on, but Delight was just made it look effortless. So it was great seeing him on some of these melee supports again. But in fairness, he played like Lulu and Renata in that series too. So definitely still very proficient on range supports, but the melees are just really something to behold when he's on those.
Okay. One of the purposes of this was to do like a prep call. It's fun to kind of shoot the shit, but I want to get a little specific. on
Okay.
like player by player on HLE. You've already said that yes, they are the strongest team, even though T1 is very close, and it might have been meta dependent on and even draft dependent on how it was, because even those games were back and forth. You've said that they play a little bit more weak side than they did last year, but they're still, it's like their superpower is playing through the top side with weak side Guma. But if they need to, it's not like they're going to lose a game just because they put Zeus on Cassante and Zeka on Oriana. They'll still be able to beat the majority of teams doing that. But player by
Yeah.
player, do you want to tell me a little bit like the Zeus that I would remember or the fans would remember from the last time they saw him internationally? Is he the same, better, or different? What is the read of him from this year so far?
I feel like Zeus is pretty similar. I think he's not like at his absolute peak, right? That we've seen
Mm-hmm.
from him. But I think when you see him in a game where he's able to take over, he's a bit of an absolute monster.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he's still the Zeus you kind of know and expect. Um, I will say that obviously I think a lot of people think of Zeus as like this big carry player. But to me, something that's really stood out was that period when T1 won Worlds and he was playing. Obviously in a lane swap meta.
Right.
And he even said recently, I think there was a quote from him where he was asked about like what's like the most impactful like play or moment in your career. And he talked about when he was like towered over on Gragas and he felt like he played it perfectly. And I think in a lot of ways he has, I mean, this is kind of a transformation Bin went through as well when he got bopped by 369 in playoffs and he just spammed loads of tanks. And I feel like even if you're like the biggest carry player in the world, you have to go through that transformation as a top laner where you like round out your pool and become more accomplished, just like being able to play those tanks too. And I feel like Zeus is able to kind of cover all those bases. Even if we all would just love to see him play carries as much as
Right.
possible.
I
I
mean,
think having that depth to play those two is big.
would it also be fair to say that like even though he has those pop off moments, one of the things that enables him to play that aggressively is if he falls behind in a game, he's still really effective at making an impact. Like he doesn't just disappear. Or do you feel like if he goes 0 and 5, it's toast?
I think he still has an impact for sure.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think he's one of those
he's
players.
Yeah, I think he definitely still has an impact, and it's not as extreme as Doran. Doran is like, I mean, we can get to him later when we talk about T1, but
Yeah.
Doran is like the extreme of like he will go 0-5, but then he will still have an impact.
Right.
So like, yeah, Zeus is a very strong laner still. So the expectation is like if he goes 0-5, it's usually because he's targeted quite heavily and punished. But we often see Kanavi playing through top as a result
Yeah.
and putting resources there because he knows. I mean, he knows that he has a top laner who can set up a wave state that allows him just to either invade or challenge or dive.
Let's talk about Kanavi then. So far in I'm trying to get the right filters. So far in spring split. I mean, this is including Road to MSI because I'm just using Games of Legends. 11 and 1 on Vi, 11 games of Pantheon, 10 games of Jarvan, 9 Xin. So, like, just the standard meta stuff, not really too many outside the box things. He had that Maokai in Road to MSI. That was the first time he's played it all split. But pretty much just been spamming the big 80 junglers. And you're saying he plays a little bit more towards topside. What has stood out to you about Kanavi in spring with HLE being number one?
Kanavi's just been so aggressive and really just kind of defined the jungle in the LCK because he's been so strong. But we'll often just find any opportunity if he sees a window to gank, to punish. And it feels like so many of his decisions are planned ahead and calculated. And especially like working in tandem with Zeka. Like it feels like there's a lot of games where like there's a set plan in mind. And that's not to say he isn't flexible and can't adjust on the fly, but he's so punishing if you're not like able to adjust to how he's either looking to gank or looking to invade. And there's been so many games where he just completely takes over because he was like, I'm going to gank mid 3 times in a row.
Right.
And suddenly Zek is 3-0 and it's just game is over. The
Right.
game is over. Or I'm going to invade at this timing and I'm going to challenge here and I'm going to have the backup for my team. And the aggression does have its faults. We obviously saw that in first stand. There has been some games where like he has maybe gone a bit too far. But I think he is a jungler who has a clear idea of how he wants to play a game in mind. And it feels like that now HLE is in step with that. he just gets so much pressure and is so good at like setting up a game for success and having a
Yeah.
good pace. And I think something as well with Kanavi that I always felt from like a year that I felt was really significant for him was that JDG roster where they try to go for the golden road. And I remember at MSI, so many people were focused on Ruler because it was a very 80 carry centric meta. And obviously Ruler did play really well. But to me, I feel like the players that felt irreplaceable at that time on the roster with 369 and Kanavi, because what they were doing that others couldn't was their role in team fights. And I feel like even though it was such an 80 carry centric meta, I felt like Kanavi's reads and his performance in team fights was just levels above every other jungler at that time. And the other 80 carries just didn't get to play the game. It was like the comparison was Ruler was listening to Payphone, and the other 80 carry was sweating with like this tank, this Scion in his face, and Kanavi jumping on them. And I just think that Kanavi is just really fearsome. And I know as well, we haven't seen a ton of it so far in the LCK, but I know from when I've been in the LPL, he is a player who also has like a ton of pocket picks. I remember when he brought out like a Shape of Jungle back in the day. So I feel like Fearless is something that he is like is a strength for him too.
Right.
So
you just haven't had to see it because they spam best of threes and then they win the pennant, so to speak. You familiar with American baseball?
no.
This is a tangent. I just boomed you.
I saw Moneyball. That's about as good as you got.
I talk about formats way too much, but Road to MSI feels weird in a league perspective because it's not like a real playoff and you're just putting the final two teams in the playoffs. But like American baseball, for the first like 50 years of the sport, didn't have playoffs either. You just played the whole regular season in the American National League, and then the two teams with the best record would play in the World Series. And that was just fine for like 50 years. So I know that LCK like doesn't have a champion and this moves towards, and you guys didn't even do like all pro teams. But I still feel like this should kind of be counted as a championship, and I still feel like it's kind of legitimate. Like I kind of feel like HLE did wing like my LCK spring. I know you're not buying it. You would have wanted double elimination and more best of fives. But they earned it. They were the best regular season team, and then they beat the second best regular season team. They win.
Technically, it's still going. The season is still going.
It's still far way through.
It's
I think they
still
did it.
going.
Congrats, they win.
Little tangent.
Oh, that's fine.
So Legend Rise is coming up. Do you know about the changes to Legend and Rise this time?
God. I would love to know. I know they're only playing 2 additional rounds instead of 3.
Yeah. So right now we have played, each team has played 18 series.
Yes.
Because it's double round robin.
Oh, and they're only going to play 8 more? Are they doubling their value, or is it just the same?
To my knowledge, they are not changing it. So they've already played more than 2/3 of the season. We're going to come back after MSI. And what I imagine is going to happen, we're going to show the standings, and it's already going to have stuff on it. It's already going to say like
clinch top 3.
HLE have made play. Yeah, it's already, and you know what? You know who I feel really bad for? DNS. I don't know at
Supers.
what point.
Yeah.
At like maybe one game, maybe 2 games in, out of playoffs. Like it is going to be so quick. It's going to be like flash in the pan, and they're just gone. And I just think you just don't have time. Like I don't know. To me, I felt like when we had 3 round robin in this period, it was still really short. It was still shorter.
Yeah.
And it felt like because it was worth less. Like the whole point of Legend and Rise is like for the lower teams, you're playing teams around your level. You have a chance to redeem yourself. And for the Legend teams, you have a chance. You're playing these high stakes match against the top teams. I feel like you should count for more, or you should reset the scores. But now we're in a situation where it's like, it just doesn't, like, okay, looking at the standings, like here's the big one. You look at the standings going into this, and you have what they're called, D+, right? D+ are 11 and 7.
Yes, they are.
So they're 2 series down on KT, and you have 8 matches. 8 matches in which you want to gain 2 series advantage over KT, and realistically, you want to gain 3 series advantage because you have the game score difference. How difficult is it going to be to gain like a 3 series advantage when you're only playing 8 and you look at the teams they're playing against?
Well, they can beat KT twice. So that's half the battle. But then they'd still
Okay.
need to win against Hanwha, T1, and Genji, which is a
And that's
little tough.
assuming they beat KT twice and KT does not win. So KT has to lose every single match.
Yeah,
Single match.
They would.
And then they have to beat what it's just, and to be honest, the score is not that far apart. We've had bigger gaps. I mean, if you look on the other side, if DN Supers, they're 4 series behind Nongshim.
For
right?
second to last.
Like, how is that going to happen? Like, there is just no universe. Like,
So-
I genuinely think DN Supers needs to sign all of HLE's roster if they want to just, like, have a chance.
I feel like I complain about the 3-split system probably every other week, so I hope people aren't tired of hearing about it. I think this is a fault of the 3-split system, Ox. I don't think there's enough time to run full splits when you're squeezing stuff between First Stand and MSI and Worlds. And they've moved Worlds back. And we did spring finals in June, by the way, in 100-degree weather in Phoenix. And we're going to be doing summer finals in October. October's not summer. Like, we've completely ruined the naming conventions. I think if we're going to do 3 internationals anyway, the first international of the year should be like the First Stand Invitational. The league should just send who they want, and you play it, and then you start your split. And then you send that winner to MSI, and then you get time for your summer split, and you send that team to Worlds. Then you can get your 3 internationals, and you can have your real seasons. And I think it's better.
Also, here's my bonus take for First Stand. Okay, last year, what did you feel like the intent of First Stand was?
We talked about this last time. Fearless. It was fearless.
Did we talk about this last time?
I think so. Maybe we talked about it off podcast.
Maybe we talked about it off podcast, but like the intent of it was like we had fearless, and that was like I don't know. To me, it felt like okay, first split
ground
experimental. Where's the experiment? This First Stand, we didn't get it.
Maybe we wanted to experiment what it would be like if Korea didn't win. So that was.
I guess that was an experiment.
Yeah, it was a good.
What would happen if Genji got 3-0'd?
Yeah.
Answer: they wouldn't go to MSI.
Shocking.
Well, that was a cool experiment.
We did it. We found out.
You know what? We probably did talk about this because I'm nothing if not persistent about stuff I'm annoyed about.
Probably. Me too. So it's like clockwork. Every time we talk, I'm going to bring up the 3-split system and you'll be like, why aren't they doing Iron Man at the next First Stand? I think that would be better.
That's what I sound like?
It's only slightly worse than my inspired impression. Okay. Zeka. Oh, I had a stat for Kanabi that I looked up while you were talking.
Yeah.
Your team fight stuff, it shows in statistics too. He leads the league in damage percentage and also in damage per minute. So he's just a good team fighter. Like, he just pumps damage because he's just playing the meta stuff. It's not like he's playing a bunch of Kindred or something. He's just playing the meta stuff and he's doing more team fight damage than literally everybody else. It's pretty sick.
He's just that guy.
He's that guy. Zeka also in the past has been known as that guy. And then I feel like it's been a while now since the last World Final he's been to. In 2022 when he was that guy with like 3 champions. And you told me he's been struggling in Fearless, but he seems like huge peaks, like really high ceiling, but his floor is a little lower than a lot of the other mid laners. This is just kind of a feeling. And then this split, is any of that changed?
I mean, the thing is, he is in really good form at the moment, but it's like, I feel like you get a player like Chovy, and I know obviously people are going to like point at Worlds and stuff, but often at Worlds, Chovy's not even the worst performer on his teams. Mm-hmm. Generally, Chovy, like, you go through like so much of the year and he's performing really well. Having a bad series from Chovy is kind of rare. Yeah. And even if he's not like, maybe you get a series at Worlds where you're like, oh, perhaps Faker would have made the series winning play here, and Chovy didn't. That's fair enough, but he's very consistent, generally speaking. Zeka feels more varied in his form. He goes through periods where he's just not being hitting hard. He goes through periods where he's a world champion. And even like after that, obviously I'm not saying like, he was good in 2022 and hasn't been after. He's had great form since then. Right now he's in a period of great form. I really hope it just continues, but who knows? But like, he had a Yone game, which was phenomenal. Like, he can still bring out the classics, but and like this stuff. So I feel like when you look at his pool, he's always been really good at the melees, right? Like, you think of stuff like Silas, Yone, Akali. Whenever he brings those out, no question, he's going to be good on them. The concern is like, are they in the meta? Is that going to be a problem? Is he just bringing this out because it's all he can play? But you had a Yone game, which was phenomenal. And then you have picks that feel not that pool, but kind of in that sort of comfort zone. As Aurora has been phenomenal. Ari feels like a pick he's pretty comfortable on. And then you have picks that are like, oh, this is not something I'd typically expect to be like a Zeka pick, like Victor.
Mm-hmm.
Victor feels like less of a Zeka pick, and he had a phenomenal game on it.
Yeah.
I think he played really well on that. He's been playing Cassiopeia as well. It feels like he's broadened his pool and he feels comfortable on a wide range of things. And I hope this continues. I hope he's able to keep playing this wide range. But this is the sort of fearless Zeka that we were looking forward to and hoping we'd get. And if he maintains his form, he's going to be so hard to deal with because he is a super flashy player.
Yeah.
And especially like I keep bringing back the Yone game, but the Yone was just absolutely phenomenal. That was in the road to MSI.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like just it's kind of like it's like Delight, honestly. It's like Delight. Less extreme, because like I said, Delight is not bad at all on range supports. There's never been a point where I've been like, oh, Delight can't play these. Whereas like Zeka, I wouldn't go as far as say can't play mages, but there's definitely been some rough point on mages. But it's like that with Zeka, where it's like he's been really good on mages recently. I'd say he's leveled up substantially. But when he brings out the Yone, it's like he's bringing out the classics, and he can just do no wrong. It's like on another level. But he's had some phenomenal games on plenty of other things, and really his mage play has been quite a bit of a highlight. Like he had a Cassiopeia game as well, 6-1 and 6, which was against. I mean, that was a great game for Cassiopeia. But I just think that, especially when mid jungle is so important, I feel like Zeka struggled a lot in that last year of Peanut playing for HLE, and I think Peanut had a rough year because Zeka was struggling so much. And then Kanavi came in, and the struggles continued because they were trying to adjust to him. There was even some games where like Zeka was trying to like adjust to Kanavi. Like Kanavi would be invading and Zeka would like rush over to try and help him and get caught out because he was just like single track mind. I need to get there, not thinking about the conditions of getting there. But now they seem like in tandem with each other, in step, and it just looks so good. It's really fun to watch, especially when they have like they can play whatever together. That Cassiopeia game, for example, was Cassiopeia Lee Sin, which isn't a pairing you typically expect. But when you see them on pairings, which are those mid-jungle pairings, like, I mean, the Maokai Yone is an example of one of them, or when they're playing like Viari, stuff like that, that is when they really shine.
That's exciting. We're not going to get there yet. I'm going to have you give me favorites after. Give me the bot lane together, Guma and Delight. Because they changed a little bit down the stretch, but the mage play is impressive to me. And like the Ziggs Camille in game 1 of Road to MSI is just a cool thing, with the whole year being like, oh, we're going to do Ashe Seraphine, we're going to do Corki Nami, and then they're just like slamming down Camille in the first game of a best of 5 and smashing with it. What's the variance of Guma Delight, and how good do you think this team is? Because it is Guma a better fit? I know it's a lot of questions. Is he a better fit for HLE than Viper was? Because a lot of people would say Viper was like the best player on the team, but was that actually just there's only so many minions to farm, there's only so many resources you can get? Is that going anywhere?
So
like,
I think
this is weird.
I think it's kind of complicated because I think obviously there's an iteration of HLE that had Doran, Peanut, Zeka, Viper, Delight, and then we now have Zeus, Kanavi, Zeka, Gumayushi, Delight. And I think that Gumayushi Zeus is a pairing that obviously served T1 very well and also works well here. It's a very good pairing because I think it allows Zeus to take more resources when he wants, because Gumayushi can be very selfless. But that's not to say Zeus won't also play weak side when Gumayushi wants to take more resources, even if Gumayushi will often play that weak side role. And I think it also works well with Delight, who is a player who loves to be freed on the map. So I think we have seen some struggles at times. I mean, we talked about the Ashe Seraphine already, where the team has just left Gumayushi out to dry. But this T1 game, this first game, is a great example where against Peyz carrier with Ezreal Karma, we have not seen much Ezreal Karma throughout the split, because it's just like teams have not allowed you to get Karma. And if you're allowed to get Karma, God forbid they allow you to get Ezreal Karma. That has been like a must deny. So they let them get
Yeah.
Ezreal Karma. And this is Peyz Carrier, who've been the most fearsome bot lane 2v2 in the league. And then they managed to come out ahead in the early levels and free up the light to move around the map. Gumayushi is able to play a defensive role, and then they try and dive him, and he's able to outplay them. The light's able to come up and turn around with a counter, and it was just like the perfect early game for this team. So HLE, I think, really benefit from having Gumayushi able to play this role. I think also Gumayushi's been super flexible. I think there's often been this talk about Gumayushi not having a wide champion pool, but when you actually look at the breadth of champions you can play, he does have a lot of champions you can play, like a ton. I think there are specific champions, a specific archetype that he doesn't lean towards, like your Kaisers and your Zeris. But I think part of that was also I think there has been times he's played Kaiser, he's played Zeri, um, and it just felt like there was this one big Kaiser game, for example, where T1 had him on the pick and just weren't really playing around it well. He's played a lot of it in solo queue. I think it's just like the team or him, there was some mesh that wasn't coming together. I feel like his style very much suits him playing things like the longer range picks, like the Jin, like the MF, the Varus, the Ziggs. But you can see from like the picks he's played in the patch has a wide range. I don't think he's infallible. I do think that there was some moments in this series, like game 2 on the Xayah, there was some mispositioning moments. And as I said, the Ashe Seraphine, even though he was targeted heavily, and I don't think it's purely his fault, I think if you have a game where you have 7 or 8 deaths, you have to take some responsibility. But I definitely think like him coming onto HLE has allowed them to take a really new approach compared to Viper, who was a much more resource intensive AD carry. And I think it's really cool to see, especially for Zeus, who I think benefits a lot. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
talked about how is Zeus gonna when he came over to HLE, how is Zeus gonna look on HLE compared to when he was on T1 and they played so heavily towards him. We're getting a more of a look towards that here on this roster.
That's really cool. This made me think of we're already kind of over time because I'm trying to fit 2 podcasts in one, but we have to have this conversation. Guma style. I feel like there's going to be Guma diehards that think he's just good at everything. And we're always trying to overgeneralize these things because he plays like hundreds of games. He can play as a hyper carry. Like if you're going to, they basically played Juggernaut and he was fine. But like,
Yep.
I think there is an element of
Okay.
when you,
The one thing I'll say about the Juggernaut game, there was one moment in it that I will critique where he just walked up
I remember.
randomly and just
he was
died for
frontlining
0.
as the Renekton was
Yeah.
like next to him, like literally next
Only
to him.
critique.
And he
But
gets
like
one
that
shot.
is just nitpicking
That was
one
crazy.
moment. Everyone made one moment, you know? But
Yeah. I'm still pulling this question together. But it's like, is that just a better archetype for winning long term in League of Legends? Like, is the resource intensive win lane play through me AD carry just worse than having Gumayushi?
the thing is that the way
It's
I
so
see
biased
it,
because Guma won Worlds because he had Faker as well. Because we're like, oh, to win
Yeah.
Worlds, you need to have X. And Ruler was able, like Ruler and Peyz won MSIs with Chovy, so those are also pretty lane dominant guys. It's
I think the cop out answer is it depends on the meta. Because if there's a meta where like the meta demands a hyper carry AD carry, then having a hyper carry AD carry is really beneficial. But I think
Yeah.
the main thing is that like just because you can play that selfless style doesn't necessarily mean you can't also play the hyper carry style. I think the players who can fit into many different baskets are super
Are just the
beneficial. It's
best.
kind of like the conversation I had about top lane earlier about Zeus and
Uh-huh.
Bin rounding out more and being able to play those tanks being stronger, especially in Fearless. Especially now Fearless is a thing. You can't just be a carry. And I think AD carries who can be more well-rounded and play mages or
Yeah.
play more weak side picks are better than those who can just play carries. One player who I can bring up as an example is Aiming, who Aiming has had really successful stints in his career, really successful runs in the LCK. But one opinion I have about him quite strongly is he is so resource demanding. And there's been times when like Lucid first came on a DK when he was on the team as well, where he was like just taking all the jungle camps. Lucid would have like 1.5 item, wouldn't get to farm the jungle at all. He was taking all the resource camps. We had this award in the LCK called the Gold King, and we just called it the aiming award because you'd win it. It was basically who got the most gold every week. It was always aiming. It was just always them. And there was even one moment where they showed like player comms and Lucid took a kill in the gank and aiming was like complaining, like, bro, why are you taking my kill?
money.
And it's like, my money. And I'm just like, I think that is also a big weakness, being like an 80 carry who can only function when you're having a ton of resources. And I think if you are playing that style, you have to be absolutely flawless. Like you cannot make a mistake. Like if you're playing a style where you're just hoarding all the resources and you make a mistake, you mess up. I mean, I use aiming as an example because there was that Smolder game he played in playoffs where he got Blitzcrank hooked in the late game and lost the entire series off that. So if you play that way, you have to be absolutely perfect. And that's not easy to do, right? Consistently. Even our best players, even our greatest players will eventually make a mistake. So I also think just having a multitude of play styles, and I think a good example also is Ruler. You know, Ruler was often not really known as like a mage player because back in the day when we had that meta where there was a lot of like varied picks in the bot lane, Viper was really good at playing like
2018,
bot.
2019.
Ruler was like, nah, I ain't about that. But now Ruler's actually playing more mages in the bot lane. So he's even he who's always been more of that, give me resources, I will carry. Even he's leaning more into the mages, which are tend to be a bit more, I'll do my own thing. So I think the fact that Gumiyushi's had so much career success and T1 has had so much success with him in that role kind of shows how much value that can be.
Yep.
And I think, you know, as much as people think of Gumiyushi as he can play that weak side role. I mean, it's the same with Zeus. You think of Zeus as he can play that carry role, but he won worlds when lane swaps were a thing. You know, they think of Gumiyushi as a weak side player, but we just saw him in Road to MSI playing a Juggernaut composition. It's like these players aren't just pigeonholed in one style, but I think it's the fact that they have this ability to play these defining styles that really gives them a lot of strength, but they're not limited to it. Yeah. And I think that 80 carry more than any other role. And, you know, I played support professionally, so I had to deal with 80 carries all the time. 80 carries are just like single track mind.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a farm. Oh, I need gold. Oh, I need a carry. 80 carries would do a lot of good from thinking maybe you could be a bit of a weak side player sometimes. You know, maybe you don't just have to play 80 carries all the time. 80 carries is just like, oh, mage is a meta, and they just cry about it, you know? Oh, Ziggs is a bot laner. Oh, wow. Everyone should just play 80 carries bot lane. Like, think of the stuff that a top laner has to deal with. Lane swaps, range top laners,
Vaynes,
Varus top, Vayne
themselves.
top. Yeah, the stuff a top laner has to deal with on a daily basis, and then an 80 carry will cry because Mel is played bot lane like 3 times a week in the LCK. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
it is.
I think 80 carries a little bit babies, if I'm being honest. I think
we started with
Gumiyushi.
We started with is Guma the ideal 80 carry, and you're like 80 carries are babies. This is how
well, that's the thing.
5 minutes later,
Gumiyushi, he's like, you know what?
He's mature.
He gets it. He's mature. He's willing to do what the team needs, and I respect that.
Yeah, Giga Chad Gumiyushi. We need to move on to T1, my man.
Okay.
We're 46 minutes in. We haven't even talked about...
We were just talking about Gumiyushi.
I know. It's actually...
yeah, different team.
A little bit more big picture. T1 has changed a bit without Guma. It's almost looking back a little shocking that they were able to win with the Doran Gumiyushi fit because it doesn't seem as perfect as either the Peyz Doran fit or the Guma Zeus fit. Because, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about Doran. He's one of the biggest enigmas of a player because I think he had years on Genji where he actually was carrying through top side, but like this split in particular, he seems more weak-sided than ever before. Like he has games where he's falling. Is he just bad? Is he not getting weak-sided? Is he just dying a lot in lane? I'm throwing a lot of questions at you. Okay. But what's going on?
Darren last year. So again, I kind of agree with your point. I think Guma, Zeus, great pairing. I think Darren Peyz. When you think about the styles of the players, makes more sense than Doran Guma, and I think Zeus Guma makes sense than Zeus Peyz. Again, we've just said how these players have flexibility, can do more than one styles, and obviously Doran Guma did just win Worlds.
Yeah, we're basically talking about best case of a player And then like
Yeah.
the other style is still like an 8.5 out of 10, but it's not their 10 out of 10
Yeah.
level.
I think Doran was playing really well last year, and really had a standout year. But this year has been struggling and kind of, like regressing sounds harsh, but he's kind of been playing a little bit how we've seen from Doran before, where like his laning has just been really poor. And it's not always just like he's been targeted or weak sided. Like the team is definitely making a considered effort to play through bot lane, and when you see that, it's going to make it harder for Doran. But there has been times where Doran is just he's just not playing well in the top lane. Like, I'm going to be real. I'm just going to put it out there. There's been times where he is just not playing well in the top lane. There's been times where owners put resources top lane, and sometimes he hasn't been super responsible with it. But Doran is just an insane team fighter, like on another level. His team fight game sense is just, I feel like for the most part, like 90% of the time, I will say it feels like 10% of the time he just gets lost in the source.
Sure.
And you know what? I'm going to say as well, for some reason, it's often on Gnar. He had a Gnar game. It was actually in the final series of Road to MSI against Gen G. He had a Gnar game against Keen's Gangplank where he jumped in on Gnar and just completely griefed, and they ended up losing that game. And it was also because I remember there was that Gnar game against BLG. What was it, 2024, 2023, when he was on Gen G, and he was playing so bad. It was like a gold play in a challenger game.
Yeah.
So maybe just the Gnar is not it. But like when he's playing Gragas, insane in the team fights. The Olaf as well. He had this Olaf game, fell behind, and then he found this insane flank at the end of the game, just ran through Gen G, won them the game. I know what it is. He is truly an enigma. He just finds a way. Well, like Doran could be. I mean this so sincerely. He could be 0-7, and it gets to a team fight. I'm still interested to see what he's going to pull off because he finds he has a great eye for what he needs to do in a team fight. But also, he will just run it down in lane consistently.
I mean, that adds to the circus of T1, right? Because Faker,
it really
Faker is similar in that sense. I know that seems like sacrilegious, but like Faker will run it down in lane frequently as well. But then he has more X factor than any player ever.
I think Faker has been better this year so far. Faker's laning generally has been better than it has been in some previous years.
Okay.
Some previous years have been pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's not a laner on the level of like Chovy, which is like, I mean, it's a tough ask. But there's definitely been some games where he's really struggled. I mean, even in the Road to MSI, that series against Gen G, there was like a Lissandra game. It wasn't just a lane, but like he kept Lissandra ulting the Gangplank. And can you guess what happened when he Lissandra ulted the Gangplank?
He probably ate his oranges and walked away.
He actually did do that.
He burned the cooldown at least, so he wouldn't have it.
Yeah,
he'd say
he did burn the oranges
down in comms.
Yeah, he did. Hoping he calmed that because that's an important one. To be able to take away. Yeah, so I feel like, I mean, Faker is just the epitome of clutch factor. Like he's obviously had some games where laning hasn't been stellar, even though, as I said, it has overall been pretty good. But I feel like it's kind of weird because this was one of my concerns when Doran first came onto the roster. Is both Doran and Faker are not the strongest laners in the LCK,
right?
But both of them just kind of have this clutch factor when it comes to team fights. And I was like, how are you going to manage two lanes that are kind of like that? But I think Faker's been better. So last year, I think Doran really stepped up his laning. This year, I think Faker stepped up his laning, and Doran's kind of like dropped down. But both of them are kind of like, you get to team fights, and it's like, who even knows, right?
Yeah.
Like we had the game 5 against Gen G. Doran had some massive engages on Gragas. Faker and Ona just like 2v5'd a team fight basically with Ryze and Neferi. They were kind of running rampant. But I think obviously that's talking about the top side of the map. I know I said like HLE, very top side driven team.
Yeah.
T1 is bot side.
Yeah.
Peyz and Carrier have been like, they just want to challenge in the 2v2 whenever possible. And Peyz, it feels like he went to so when he was here, it felt like they were trying to view him as like a ruler clone, right?
Okay.
Like we give you resources, you team fight, you're consistent team fight, you're the hyper carry guy. And that was kind of what he did. There was a couple of moments like in high pressure games, I feel like Peyz wasn't peak of consistency, made some missteps, but it's understandable. He was still very new.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went to LPL, had a great time there. Maybe not in terms of overall team success, but developed as a player. Came back, and you know what? He's got a bit of that Jackie Love gene right now, where like he is looking for the windows to carry. He's being very aggressive, and sometimes that is costly, but also sometimes he is just popping off to an insane degree. So very excited to watch. He had a Callista game against Gen G. So I mean, I'm gonna go through. Okay, so you're playing Callista.
Yeah.
The enemy composition is Yorick, that's whatever, Maokai, Anivia, Zyricon.
It doesn't seem like a great
That
angle.
is not, yeah, not smooth sailing for Callista, but he made it work. And it wasn't the lethality Callista where you just like sit back and throw your Q from miles away. No. That was the traditional Callista build. And yeah, he kind of went crazy in that game. So
Sheesh.
Peyz is just a bit of a force to be reckoned with. And again, I don't think so. He got player of the match for that series. I personally didn't go for him because there was the Yunara game. He got like 7 kills. He was like 7-0, and then they actually lost that game because he
Right.
kind of just inted 2 or 3 times in a row. And then the Civ game, the last game, there was a moment where he like flashed over a wall with like 0 pressure, and it nearly lost him a team fight. So again, I think he's just a little more mistake prone than when he first came on the scene. But he's also like got a lot of carry potential.
Yeah.
So if he kind of just shores up some of these mistakes, he'll be insane.
Absolutely.
But
And
that's
he's got
like my
carry
only
with
real
him,
criticism.
which is an interesting combination because like do you feel like having Peyz on this team limits Owner a little bit in what he can do? Because now, like, if Keria and Peyz are playing so heavily to smash lane and then have Peyz take over the game, it feels like as a jungler, it becomes more dangerous to not be bot lane for the 3v3s that are going to happen and maybe makes you a little bit more one-dimensional.
I think so. I think the problem is this was how T1 wanted to play, and the meta was really good for it.
Yeah.
And then we hit MSI patch, and then we had situations like their match where it was T1 against HLE. There was which one was the one where it was was it T1 against HLE, or was it
Genji.
Was it Genji against T1? There was some match. Yeah, it was Genji against T1 where like Duro got nearly kill onto Keria as Camille onto Shen. Like Keria just like was trying to match roams the whole game, was just roaming the whole time.
Oh, this was a stomp.
So it feels like the meta shifted, and like T1 are kind of aware they can't just purely play through bot anymore. But I feel like that is a style that like HLE wanted to play anyway, whereas T1 they were kind of leaning into the meta that it was the meta they wanted to play. And T1 are very good at adapting when the meta shifts, but I'm just wondering how they're going to adopt this with how Peyz and Carrier were so lane driven,
right?
And how that's going to come out when they go to MSI. And because I think Ona was playing pretty heavily through bot, and Ona's been a little bit inconsistent as well this season in general. It's not been his best performance.
Well, it would make sense.
There's been a lot of games.
Like based on your description of their team, it's like, well, neither mid or top are super lane dominant. They're streaky, and they have a bot lane who wants to play super aggressive all the time. Like I feel like that's a hard thing to look like the best jungler in the world if that's what your lanes are doing.
Yeah, it feels pretty one-dimensional for what Ona has to do in those situations, and which makes you predictable, which as a jungler is never really a good thing.
But they're still T1. They still went 14-4. They still beat Genji in a best of 5. Like they're still insane. Their team fighting is so ridiculously dynamic, and just from the best of 5s I watched and the little bits of their best of 3s I saw throughout the split, like the thing that has really defined T1 since I'd say 2021. Like this is when they had, like even before Zeus joined, was how quickly they'll go Baron. Like they have no fear around neutral objectives and opting into like high pressure game deciding situations. Like I feel like they do that faster and more fearlessly than any other team I've ever seen.
I think what's been tricky with that this year is the fact that Baron's a lot harder to take,
Mm-hmm.
with like the buff damage and it being tankier. But I think they've kind of pivoted well. I think what is the most insane thing with T1 right now, which I feel like no other team is doing, is how freely they will sacrifice soul.
Oh,
And you may think, well,
interesting.
like even if it's like Ocean Soul, like any team would sacrifice Ocean Soul, but I don't think that's true because you get teams, even top teams, so like Ocean Soul's on the cards and they won't sacrifice it. Like we have to fight it. But I've
Uh-huh.
seen T1 sacrifice like Mountain Soul. They will
Right.
sacrifice like the good souls. They will be like, look, can we win this fight? No. Okay. Do we 100% lose the game if we give the soul? No, we give it. And
Right.
they've made that decision on multiple times and then won the game because they didn't go for an unfavorable fight. Whereas I feel like even our top teams, so many teams, they will just go, guys, we cannot give this soul, it's too strong. And I've
Mm.
seen teams like lose the game of a Chemtech soul, which I think, like to me, when I look at the souls, I'm like Chemtech Ocean situationally can be okay, but they're the weaker souls. And then you have like as you move up the tier list, like the other four are a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And yes, the situations where like they're stronger or weaker, but generally speaking, like there's some souls like to me, Hex Deck is really hard to justify giving up
Yeah.
because it's just obnoxious.
Yeah.
But I mean, a good example
Sometimes
is
Mountain
like
Soul.
yeah, but I feel like T1 have been so much more willing to go. It doesn't matter, like they will judge the situation, they'll judge the soul, and they'll go, "Nah, we don't need it." And I think other teams, it's just like in their minds, they're like, "Soul, we have to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Soul, we can't give it, no matter what." It's like a an automated default response. We have to fight at Soul, and T1 are so much more subjective, and
Right.
it's really cool to see.
That is cool.
Because obviously something we've praised so much is their objective play, and I think that team fighting has just been insane. Like I said, the HLE series, HLE are, I mean, they're a team who you feel like could just out team fight so many teams in the world. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna go to MSI, and they will just consistently, I feel like, out team fight just most of the teams at that tournament. And yet with deficits, T1 was able to team fight their way back into some of those games, which is crazy. I also think like if you look at Carrier's performance of Road to MSI, it was pretty underwhelming relative to his performance during the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have these periods from Carrier where he's just the best support in the world and maybe even the best player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he just goes through these streaks. We had one last year as well, and he had a streak like that during the regular season where he was just in insane form,
I
just
see.
an absolute menace, absolute huge playmaker. And then Road to MSI, he was just a bit subdued in comparison.
Right.
Like obviously he still played very well and it was still enough for them to overall win. But there was some actually, you know what? There was some big uncharacteristic mistakes. So a good example against Gen G game one, he got solo killed by not solo kills, 2v2 killed, level 1 by Durham Ruler.
Mm-hmm.
And then that game we went 2, 10, and 5, it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Game 3 on Alistair, this was the really crazy one. He was messing up his Alistair combos. He flubbed the flash Alistair combo, he flubbed the regular combo. That you just don't see that from Carrier. It's just
Yeah.
not common. So like that was probably like I don't even think he was bad. Like he got like a good Nico ult in game 5. I think compared to like average LCK support, I still think he played 5. But for
Right.
Carrier, played fine. But for Carrier standard, he was pretty bad in that series.
Yeah.
So not the best form from him, but like overall over the regular season, he was kind of in pretty insane form. So I'm excited to
Jeez.
see hopefully a return to that insane form in
T1 is one of these
MSI.
teams, and it's obvious. We've probably talked about this before because, you know, they've been to 4 World Finals in a row, and then have never won LCK since the 4 World Finals appearances. Like the last split that T1 won was 2022 spring of LCK, and they haven't actually won the LCK or Road to MSI or a LCK Cup. But like, it's because they actually do have these like slew of inconsistencies amongst everyone, but they have better team fighting and more clutch factor than any team. And like no team can come close to that level. And I think the soul thing you bring up, I love that for them. Like I love the fact that League of Legends is this game where I feel like we get so used to it as casters to say, oh yeah, it's a 3,000 gold lead. They're way ahead. But like, what is a 3,000 gold lead sometimes? It's 2 of your players have a completed item and the other team has components. Like, so your spells now do 10% more damage than the other team? Like, what is that really? If you can have a team fight where you completely remove someone from the fight or mark someone perfectly or create a play that's a 4v1, that's going to greatly outperform a soul or an item advantage. So the fact that T1 is more capable of making those things happen than anyone else, it actually just makes sense that they should be giving more souls than other teams.
I think T1 is literally the only team in the world that you can say this about, where they could be in the World Finals, Game 5, they could be 8,000 gold down, enemy team's about to get Mountain Soul, and they could literally sit there and go, nah, I think we give it, I think we're fine.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good fight for us.
They could mean it. I think
Yeah.
every other team in the world were like, no, guys, we've got to fight. We can't give it, guys. Guys, it's finals. It's game. Guys, we got to fight it. I think every other team in the world would say that. I think T1 would be like, your carrier would take his jacket off, be like, we're fine, guys. It's chill. It's chill. And we've seen that on display. I think, that's something I always thought about. I think T1 have this experience, and obviously they brought in new players. And I think a good example was Doran. Last year's finals really struggled because it was his first finals.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about a player like BDD. BDD is a player who's had such a long, storied career. But last year was his first World Finals. And then you think about the T1 players, the core of this roster, the mid, jungle, and support in Faker, Owner, and Carrier, and how many World Finals they've played, and how they're just at the point where they can just filter it all out,
Mm-hmm.
and they can just lock in, and how they can just think they can actually make the correct decisions and not be influenced by the emotions of the situation. And it's easy to say, especially like as a caster, as a fan, as a viewer, or after the fact, you VOD review and you're like, what is he doing in this situation? But it's so hard in the moment. And I think they've gotten to the point which not many players have, and I think no other complete teams really have, in that they can just be in those situations and just make the decisions without emotion and say like, yeah, this is the right call. We can do that. And you kind of saw that even in I think it was the AL series where they were behind and they were just, I think
Mm-hmm.
there was a clip of carrier where he gets killed and he just like laughs and like I think he
in
adjusts
game 5,
his jacket or something.
and you're like, what the hell? Like, you're doing? What are you laughing at? It's insane how calm that could be. Okay, I need to cut you off soon. I need to get your predictions here. Okay.
Oh, my predictions.
Kind of. It's a it's a circular question because weirdly enough, as great as T1 has been at Worlds, they haven't won MSI for a rather long time, sir.
It has been a while.
2017 was the last MSI that T1 has won. In fact, Peyz is the most recent MSI champion on this roster. 2024 MSI, he was able to win with Gen G. True. Then you have HLE, who is the number 1 seed. You have BLG, the number 1 seed, going for Golden Road. We'll give G2 like an honorable mention, but I think it's a low chance that they win. And then there's also TES. Those are like the 5 that I feel like are fighting for it.
You know what? I love top esports, but I think G2.
You think you don't think TES gets to be in the top 5, top 4?
No,
they're kicking them out.
I gotta have faith in them, man. Not again.
I'm gonna get into this with Emily for sure. Not again. That team is an enigma, dude. You know how C9 is cursed in finals? TES has the same curse in international events. Like, they're good.
they're a good
team.
I used to say it was like the ship of Theseus, where like you change all the parts and it stays the same.
Yeah.
But they brought the old parts back. They have Tian again. They have Jackie Love.
Yeah, they're refinished. It's fine. Anyway, that's not important. I want your T1 HLE predictions and expectations. Who has a higher chance of winning MSI? T1, HLE, or BLG? I think those are the 3 biggest contenders.
This is that's
hard.
Such a hard question.
It's going to be a good tournament because of this question.
Yeah. It's really difficult.
I know.
I think so. Obviously, new patches have come out since the patch we had in Road to MSI. I do think the changes they brought in really helped HLE. And HLE were already the strongest LCK team. So logically, from my LCK perspective, HLE looking great. BLG is scary as hell. They had a bit of a goofy playoffs though, but they did just come in at the end just to slap
reassert
top
dominance.
esports. Yeah. And obviously they are the most recent international winners as well. And then T1, I mean, they're T1. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, enough
Yeah.
said. I
You're just flipping coins in your head, and you're like, I don't know who it's going to be.
yeah.
It sounds like HLE is your answer. That's where I'm feeling you're emotionally 34% instead of 33.3%. Like you're so conflicted.
Maybe it's like,
Do you know LPL's won more MSIs than LCK? Did you know this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Shout out RNG.
Yep. 3 times.
Well, shout who? Oh, this is tough, man.
I know.
I think the thing is, like, the logical conclusion I can think about is if I favor HLE over T1, right?
Okay. Because they just beat them.
And
Makes sense.
And there are two promising LCK seeds versus one extremely strong LPL seed.
Mm-hmm.
But it could just be a situation like 2023 where the LPL seed is really strong. But then the thing that happened in 2023 was the second seed came in strong too, and let's be real, Top Esports doesn't have that source.
I'll give you an easy out, actually. HLE has the easier initial seed because BLG is the 1 seed, plays the winner of play-in, who's likely T1. So it's likely we get BLG T1 right away, and one of them has to go lower bracket, which just naturally reduces their chances of winning because they'll have single elimination after that. HLE is Pool 2. They are playing first round against either Team Secret Wales or Furia. So their first round matchup is kind of free. Just food for thought.
I think, is this still true? I'm pretty sure it's still true. Since we've had double elim at MSI, hasn't the winner never used it?
Correct. It's always been the upper bracket.
So, yeah. Just win.
Just,
That's the answer. Just win. See, the more I try and logic myself into an answer, the more I feel like I logic myself out of it again.
Into BLG because they have Knight, the mid lane king.
Knight's been in terrific form. Knight has been in insane form. What surprised me is I feel like Viper hasn't been in as good form.
He had a weird injury that he went back to Korea to treat and then came back. They're being really cagey about it.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with HLE. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's super close. I think that honestly, the top 3 on their day, if they hit the meta right, they have a good shit. Any of them could take it. Completely justifiable. No disrespect to BLG or T1. But the reason I'm going with HLE is I think the meta shifts we got in road to MSI, I do think favor them. They were already top the LCK with those meta shifts. And before those meta shifts, and then those meta shifts came in. So I'm going with HLE. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if those other 2 won. Dark Horse, G2. Not a chance. Top Esports.
Okay. Okay, you're on record. Appreciate it.
Yeah, on record. But if Top Esports do win, oh my god. I'm not going to say it.
You'll be happy. You're a fan.
I would be overjoyed. Yeah. It would be bliss. And people can clown on me for saying not a chance, but I wouldn't even care because I'd be at peace.
Yeah.
I would just, oh my god, me and Emily would be together, would be like, look at us. Who would have thought?
She really wants to do a segment with you, she's told me, when TES plays. But I'm going to talk to her next. So for those of you on the podcast, we're going to Emily right afterwards, right after we close this up. Aux, I appreciate you joining me. I'll be seeing you in Korea soon. We're both going to MSI.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can watch
We're both
TES
going to Korea because I'm not in Korea right now.
dominate together. G2 is playing TES first matchup, by the way. Once the bracket stage starts. That's how the seeding works.
Was the last time they played the 3-0?
I think we need to double check this. I'll get it with Emily. So podcast viewers will know. Aux, thank you. Enjoy your brother's wedding. Enjoy your time back home. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay, goodbye.
Emily, welcome. Thanks for taking the time. I see you've chosen your Top Esports jersey. I was just talking to Aux about Top Esports and your shared pain. What is it? How would you describe your relationship with Top?
I'd say it's pain, It hurts to be something. It's worse to be nothing with you, with Top Esports. I think, there's there's always the obvious elephant in the room when talking about them, which is their international performance. I'm going to get it out of the way now just so I can approach them from a more analytical, like clean perspective. Like,
Sure.
yes, I know they have the reputation of choking at international competition. No, this is not just like a Western perception. There's actually, I think I told you about this, but Candace showed me this ridiculous meme video set to Spinning Top, a song called Spinning Top, where they just spin the Top Esports logo and they're just ripping into like every player and talking about how they always fail at international events. And like, so yeah, this is like, it is very like, oh no, they're here again.
Is
Are
it
you
not
prepared?
a little unfair? They did make world semifinals and then lost to the eventual world champion. Like,
yeah,
that's a pretty high
some
fail.
of it. Yeah, I think some of it is and some of it isn't. I think a lot of people remember, like, for example, First Stand last year was a huge disappointment for them, even though that tournament was like smaller than this year's.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people now look back at that tournament and they're like, it's like kind of the first time this happened.
Right.
But then I think everyone also remembers the 2022 like loss to GAM. That kind of sticks in people's minds. I think there's always this, and in a way it's kind of a cool narrative, right? Because Jackie Love won his first ever title his rookie year after being like super hyped, right?
True.
With IG, and he's like never been able to reach those heights again. So I know we brought this up when they were in semifinals last year, but I think like he specifically still has so many fans. And this team, I know my personal favorite, Tien, is back on the team.
Yep.
And he has also had some, I think it's a bit unfair with how people also, I think it's a bit unfair for Jackie Love as well, but like, I think it's also a bit unfair for how people categorize Tien as an international choker, considering, yes, he was finals MVP. Yes, I know it was 7 years ago. Well, when he was on FPX, I think he's had like the basic thing is like, it's a huge variance, right? He's either had a really strong performance or he's had some pretty poor performances. Most notably the FPX like bombing out in 2021.
Yeah.
In groups, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's just a lot with
a lot of baggage.
Specifically, Tien and Jackie Love have a lot of baggage, but the rest of the team, like, this is a very interesting mixture of veterans and rookies. And now that the international chokers narrative has been pushed out of the way, and I already brought it up, I can talk about all the fun stuff that's been going on with TES in Split 2 because.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'll just
they have been a very fun team to watch.
I'll just do the quick recap from the Leaguepedia rundown. They lose last year 3-0 in Worlds semifinals. And then Kanavi actually goes to the rival HLE, who they're going to play probably at some time during MSI. But they eventually bring back Tien. He actually didn't play in Split 1. Split 1 was rough for them because Jackie Love was not playing. Tien wasn't playing. 369 was playing, who's also been subbed out for a really exciting player that you want to talk about later. And they don't even have an amazing upper bracket in Group Ascend, which is the top 8 teams in the LPL. They end up going 8-6 in best of series, but then they actually make it all the way through the upper bracket. They're the first team to manage to dispatch Team WE, who we're going to take a detour for because they ruined everything. They just messed up the playoffs entirely.
They did.
And then they just get swept by BLG once again. So it's like there was this high... Yeah. They qualified by beating WE, who is this 1-13 team. So it's this huge it's a massively mixed bag of expectations. But you can now, I think the best thing to do is rather than trying to like play therapist and figure out, will they choke? Will they not choke? You're just going to assume that they can maintain the things that they've shown throughout spring and the 50 games they played and what that would bring to MSI. So talk me through what their road through playoffs was and what you feel like the identity of this team was.
Yeah, so that makes them, I would say, like a very solid team. Like definitely not a tournament favorite, but a team that can play the map very well. Specifically, so I'll go down the roster just so people know because they might not know some of these
for sure.
players.
That's smart.
This is the recovery post Nio scandal of Split One as well.
Oh my god,
so Tien,
that thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I was like, that's why I did the.
I forgot about
I thought
that.
You were, like purposely avoiding it. Yeah.
Can you say it? Can you do a quick TLDR?
Oh yeah, so Nio, their jungler in Split One, was he was alleged to have match fixed. I believe he admitted to it. Now is off the team. It's funny because there's this one Brazilian fan who's like this massive Dracula fan, and I finally met him in person. And the first thing he said to me is he's like, "Oh, I think they can do it, man. I'm so mad at Nio though. Like I'm so mad." And so yeah, we've got Jackie Love back because Zhao Qi was their ADC in Split One.
Yep.
And Nio is out, Tien is back. The big thing is that 369 was performing very poorly. It makes me so sad because, as you already know, Jat, like I also love 369.
He's the best.
So yeah, so he's stepped down. There are a lot of rumors about like what's going to happen with him in the future, just because he hasn't really been playing much solo queue, and his replacement Soyeon has been performing like insanely well. So he is, and I feel like it's been a while since we've actually been able to talk about having some like really fun up and coming Chinese rookies on the international stage. So Zoyan is originally from IG Youth, right?
Okay.
IG Young. I always get, so it's IG Young and EDG Youth, and I always swap the Young and the Youth. But yeah, he was from IG Young and then on IG and then for a tiny bit. And then was called up from where he was playing on TES Challenger when 369 went on his hiatus. And we don't know when 369 will be back, but Zoyan has been a really, really great addition to this roster. He's performed super, super well. And you also have Feng Yue, who is their support. He did play in Split One. He is like, I already wrote down, I don't know if you peeked at our like MSI doc, but I already wrote down he is a giant golden retriever because he's super tall. He's like 6'4" or something like that. He's actually one of the tallest pros in Tier 1. So when you see TES line up, it's just like Feng Yue, and he's just smiling. He's like towering over everyone. He did, if you see his entrance, because they basically had the fan tunnel, right, in LPL. And for finals, they like widened it so most players could like only go down one side of the tunnel or the other, and he's just like sprinting through with this like giant wingspan,
7-foot wingspan. That's so
funny.
It
was really cute. It was really cute. So yeah, he has been improving a lot, and I think being able to, again, when you get this kind of mixture of veterans and rookies, and then Cream kind of being in the middle, right, where he's just been steadily improving as an LPL mid laner. You get this really cool mixture where players like Zoyan and Feng Yue are able to learn from players like Jackie Love and Tien. So it's a very, very interesting mixture of like really, really star LPL veterans and then these up and coming rookies.
Yeah.
So this team has been really, really fun to watch, in my opinion. Like, are they always going to make the right decision? No. But on the whole, they've performed really well. I actually would have said, not based on their regular season, but just based on their playoff run and based on BLG's trouble with WE, I'm like, well, maybe TES looked like the better team. But then I ended up going for BLG winning anyway for finals. And then BLG kind of dispatched them pretty easily, 3-0.
Yep.
I think their strengths, I think Tien has just been performing really well. He usually reads the map very well. When TES have been at their best in the past, I do think it's been because of their map play. And I think we could see some interesting stuff out of them at MSI with some of the small evolutions in like lane assignments that we've already seen now that the turrets don't scream at you for for lane swaps, and especially with the success of On just basically being unhinged around the map super early. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
That's a positive, by the way. That's an affectionate unhinged. So yeah, I mean, I think like TES are very solidly a good team. I definitely don't think they're favorites though. And I think if they win, it would be a surprise, but not as big of a surprise as a team like Lion winning, or like, you know, like it would be a pretty big surprise. But then you'd look at this roster and you'd be like, okay, if you take out all the extracurricular stuff about them choking and stuff like that, and how well the two new players are really, like the two players who are new to the LPL this year have been performing, I think there's a path, but not a very large one.
I mean, I was joking with Aux because I was trying to get him to pick a tournament favorite at the end, and I kind of had like a top 5 with G2 and TES being 4 and 5. You have the 2 Korean teams, you have BLG, then you have G2 and TES. TES and G2, funnily enough, will play first round of bracket stage.
Yeah, they have to.
That's locked in. Yeah, based on the way the tournament's seeded.
Yeah, because BLG is the other number 1 seed, and TES can't face BLG.
Which is just,
so that'll be a banger right off the bat. Yeah,
incredible. Since that was the 2024 MSI, G2 3-0'd them, sent them home. That was like the temporary peak of European League of Legends for like 3 years. But with TES, just broad strokes of their play style, who do you think their best player is, or who do you think they play through the most?
I would say it's still Tien. Like, I think a lot of stuff just goes through Tien. I think the thing that has really opened up that's been kind of interesting with Zoyan coming onto the roster is that now they can go for some, like with top lane being the way it is, they can go for a lot of counter picks with him that they didn't really or couldn't with the way that 369 was playing. And that has opened up a lot on the map for them. I think kind of the platonic ideal of this team is a team that reads the map very well and plays it very well. They're not complete like psychopaths. Again, I say that affectionately, like BLG, in terms of, you know, BLG are such a heavy jungle support team and you get them on the map ASAP. And Fengyue is kind of learning a little bit of that. I think his synergy with Tien has improved a lot. And he himself has just improved a lot, I think, under the guidance of Jackulov and Tien, I have to assume. But yeah, I think you can kind of see it in their WE match where, you know, everyone was like, oh, how's this going to go? WE seemed to be the BLG killers. You know, they booted them down to the lower bracket. And TES dispatched them pretty quickly just with superior map play. The stuff that they tried to do against BLG to really upset the way that BLG like to play the map so fast and so early did not work against TES, because either they just tracked monkeys super well, or WE would try to overload sides and TES would be like, okay, we'll just take this other half of the map, like, and all of these objectives, right? So I would say they're a little bit more, when you're comparing them to BLG, which is the other team with, I think, kind of a more classically like what people think of when they think of an LPL team. I think they think of a team like BLG. TES are a little bit more measured, I would say. They're still going to be pretty aggressive on the map, but when I think of them and their play style, I think of a team that really tries to get advantages elsewhere if they feel like a team is trying to make a play somewhere, right? And I would say that is something that's been a part of their play style since the lane swap days, when they were just a team that was very, very good at lane swaps. And that was back in, what, 2024 MSI, I would say?
2024 MSI was the lane swap dominated MSI.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's where 369 was at his peak. I mean, I see I don't want to mess up his name. Zueon?
Oh yeah.
Zoyan?
So it's like whenever I hear the Chinese casters pronounce it,
Yeah.
I can't do it either, but I would say Zoyan is probably like the
Zoyan.
closest.
Most played as Jace,
Zoyan,
second most played as Mbessa. So he definitely feels like
Mhm.
a bit of a lane check, like try to play lane dominant type top laners. How do I put this question? LPL is always even harder to scout for people that don't watch the games because they don't have the same stats APIs. So you don't get to see like, CSD, damage percentage, all this stuff. A lot of it is kind of based off of feel. So do you feel like they have dominant solo lanes? Do they play dominant bot lanes? Who is weak side? Who is strong side? And I know it's going to vary the same way it does, but if we were just talking about HLE, well, Zeus and Zeka are a little bit more strong side and Guma's a little bit more weak side. What's the profile of this team? Because we can't see it in the stats.
I would say that I actually think their solo laners have performed really well, except against BLG. And like, so BLG is like the stat check, right? For solo laners. I think Zoyan has been able to contest Bin in lane, like surprisingly well at times, I would say. But yeah, I think this is a team where Tien is kind of going to be the ultimate like driver of what they're going to do early. And then depending on draft, he's going to choose where to go. I think Cream has been kind of the big revelation almost, or like not revelation, but like I again feel like a lot of Western fans, or if you've only seen TES at international competitions, they kind of see Cream as someone who was outperformed by some of his peers on the international stage. Outside of like that one like insane Tristana game he had back in I think that was also a 2024 MSI. But yeah, I think the big thing to me is how well Cream and Tien have worked together as mid-jungle duo, and then trying to add Feng Yue into that. Right. If he is going to be roaming on the map, right? So not that Jaculov is like constantly playing weak side, but I'd say the mid-jungle like increasing synergy between those two, and also Cream's continued like he's just continued to improve like steadily to the point where I think it's still like you have like Bin and Knight who are just kind of holding steady as like can you at least compete with us? And if you can't, then you're going to have a lot of issues. If you can't either just have solo laners that can compete with them or find a way around their strength. And that's kind of been the LPL like I would say as a whole this year. I mean, I feel like it's been that way with Knight for forever now. But yeah, Bin has had a lot more ups and downs in terms of his performance. But
is there anything else you'd want to touch on with TES? Because I'm ready to jump on the Knight hype train and talk about BLG. Because I feel like you've done a good job encapsulating TES so far. Like they've been good the whole year. Split.
Yeah, I really want people to understand that this is because I know the main narrative that everyone is going to want to push, probably us included. Like, I'll fight back against it if I'm on that desk. I promise TES fans. But like, you do have to understand it's sometimes hard to talk about this team holistically without going into that narrative. But this is a very exciting team to watch. Give them a chance. You probably will get your heart broken, but it's fine. I'm still here. I'm still alive. And they do have two really fun rookies that I think people should warm up to because they both. I mean, Feng Yue in particular, like I said, he's just kind of like a giant golden retriever, which is just very fun to see on stage. And yeah, I'm excited to see Zoyan go up against the LCK top laners as well, because I think that'll be a really, really great test for him, given how well he's been performing and how they've been able to rely on him for those counter picks in top.
I kind of feel like their MSI is going to hinge on whether or not they beat G2 right away. Like, can you imagine them beating G2 and then doing anything in the lower bracket? Like, it's just... That'll just tilt them, surely. But you never know. You never know. They do have newer
I hope
players
that does not happen.
that might not have the scar tissue. That's
Yeah.
funny. Okay. I was looking at Knight last night because you were telling me how dominant he's been. And I've seen a little
Yes.
bit of his series. I still need to do a lot more VOD review. Two things. The playoffs were so funny. The fact that WE...
This is where we have to talk about WE.
I know. WE beats them in the first round in the 1 versus 8 matchup, which immediately drops BLG to lower bracket, which is just going to mess up. It's going to mess up history because the teams that BLG then eliminated didn't deserve to go out that early. Like, you just have the best team in the LPL. Like, technically EDG just gets double 3-0'd, but like, okay, the second one was to BLG. So BLG ends up eliminating EDG, JDG, AL, WE, and TES in 5 straight best of 5s. It's insane what they actually did to qualify as the number 1 seed after losing to WE.
Yeah. As
Unreal.
someone put it, it's kind of crazy. So WE, like BLG lost 5 total games to WE, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the LPL was only able to take 1 in the bracket.
That's
and
true.
It was the JDG series, which was a 3-1.
That's true. Everything else was a sweep. And then even during the regular season, they were 12-2 and best of 3. So they were like running the league.
Yeah, this is an incredibly dominant team. So like the question is then that everyone was asking is like, well, how did WE do? How did WE do it?
Let's take this tangent because they did actually beat them the first time, and then even more shockingly, I feel like after getting swept by TES, WE then still took BLG to 5 games. So what's your read on this like 9-game like journey to the Twilight Zone we took with WE?
I think WE, like this team kind of had an uncanny ability because first of all, I know that the stat that everyone loves to bring up is like, this team was garbage during the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They only won 1 series,
Mm-hmm.
which like kind of true, but also it's because they were in the upper bracket constantly, or the upper group.
Yeah,
constantly facing better teams, right? So like they went overall 1-13 in matches.
Yes.
And so the stat and the one match they won against was against IG. Sorry, I had to check. I was like, I think it was IG, but I wanted to make sure. The big thing was that they were still getting like practice against better teams. B, Monkey had their jungler, formerly of EDG Youth. He was on a team that I really liked, actually, like a young EDG team, for their development team. He had this like split with the team where they had another jungler named Tyrion come in for a few, I think for 2 series. It might have only been for 1. I think it was for 2 though. But he basically gave an interview with Esports Focus that I believe you translated on Twitter, where he said he was basically like, my relationships on the team were broken. Like, you get the sense that he was kind of like potentially ordering his teammates around, and there was some sort of schism on the team. And when he came back, he like apologized to his teammates. He's like, I'm really sorry. I hope we can build trust with each other, etc. And they actually did. And it's important to bring this up because Monkey is the player that their kind of anti-BLG strategy revolves around, right? Because it basically was BLG like to play the map incredibly fast. They like to get on the map as fast as possible. I think if you want to see like the most quintessential BLG game, I don't know if you've had time to watch it yet, but their first game against Top Esports in the finals was the on Camille support. And there's like 41 kills, I think, total in that. It was like a 1.64 combined kills per minute game. And On is just unhinged. I think he doesn't hit level 6 until like 14 minute, 15 minute.
Wow.
Because he's just on the map.
Yeah.
He's just everywhere. And BLG's kind of strategy relies on him. But first of all, it relies on Knight and Bin just being two of the best solo laners in the world. Like I said, Bin's had a lot of ups and downs. He's been caught out in side lanes. But Knight has been, in my opinion, and I know this is going to probably make a lot of people mad, but I think he's been the best performing individual player in League of Legends. And he is going into this tournament.
I was going to ask you about this.
Doesn't mean other mid laners can't win, but I'm just saying he's the best performing.
We'll touch on this later. He has some insane stats, and you've been watching the games. It's crazy.
It's so ridiculous how good he has been this split. And so there's this strategy where it's like, okay, we know Knight is going to, do well. That gives us a really stable mid around which On and Shun can just try to create a lot of chaos, right? And be everywhere. And then once they get a lead, they just keep pushing. And so what WE did is they were like, well, okay, we're going to use our support jungle duo to try to disrupt that. So we're going to constantly be in mid. We're going to go for these invades. We're going to essentially give Monkey on some of his picks a lot of the like lane farm to get him into really, really strong positions as well. And this was kind of their anti BLG strategy that ended up working. I think it's important to note that they still took BLG to 5 games. BLG did end up winning. B, it also involved a huge kind of like glow up from Erha, who he was like an up and coming support they got from Weibo. I've heard a rumor that Weibo is actually trying to get him back now because
he's good now.
He did so well. He did so well this split, and he didn't have the best split one, right? And so his glow up has been another huge reason why they basically had a jungle support duo that could contest with what Shun and On want to do in the early game. And so I thought it was a very interesting strategy. I think anyone who wants to beat BLG should look at what Team WE managed to do against them. I also just thought it was really fun, albeit whenever there's a huge upset in a bracket like this, you have like old WE fans coming out of the woodwork and being like, yeah, like I used to be a WE fan. Like, is it okay to get excited about this team again? Yeah. Because they are one of the OG Chinese teams, right? So it was cool to see them kind of like, again, Monkey had his, like, he stepped back, he came back onto the roster. They ended up gelling well together again. And this is what sent BLG to the lower bracket, which they just absolutely raised through outside of WE.
WE again. It's a fun little story. I do wonder if WE will be better in split 3, right? Like, I doubt they go 1-13. They figured because they still beat AL after beating BLG before losing to TES. So they had like an additional layer to their glow up before falling, but you never know. LPL is going to continue to be crazy.
If they can hang on to Erha and he continues to perform well, and it's tough though. Like, I do think this is still like a comparative over performance, right? And then, like I said, when they went up against TES, I think they did have trouble where TES essentially would just call their bluff and be like, we're just getting something else on the map. Like, you do you. And so I hope they can still contend because it was a fun watch. And I always like, again, seeing young players be able to step out and be really successful. I know a lot of fans have already talked about like, okay, who's going to take Monkey and like which of the top teams are going to pluck him, right? Like, is JDG going to take Junja out and then like pluck Monkey and put him on that team so he kind of matriculates up to what have been the more successful LPL orgs in recent LPL history? who knows? I just hope they don't like fall to the bottom again, because that'd be really sad.
Let's talk about Knight. So he wins
Yeah.
MVP. He wins MVP.
Yep.
So we're coming off, even zooming out a little bit. MSI happen or first stand happens. Everyone's loving Bin. We have this conversation. People are immediately like elevating Bin. Is he the best player in the world? Wow, they play through chop, blah, blah, blah. Then spring split happens. And I'm looking at some of these games. IG versus BLG, Oriana. 18 kills, 1 death, 10 assists. Another one against Top Esports in the regular season as a Blanc. 17 kills. Annie against Team WE in playoffs. In the series they lost. 14 kills. JDG versus BLG. 10-0-10 on Victor. 16-1-3 on Mel. 14-0-6 on Ari. So across the split, he had 7 kills a game, which I need Liam or Molecule to pull this for me because I'm not good enough with Leaguepedia queries. But I think that's the most kills per game maybe ever, but at least since like in the last 10 years. Because I remember ManCloud from LCS Summer had like the LCS kill record that's like unbreakable. And I went back and checked, that was 6.2 kills per game. This was 7 kills per game. That's so many kills per game. He was 50 kills above the next closest player in the whole LPL. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if you also look at his damage numbers too, it's like 80 carry, Knight, 80 carry, 80 carry, 80 carry.
1100 DPM on Mel, 1100 on Jace mid. Like he just,
it's just insane.
It's incredible.
Jace mid is also just a classic of his. But yeah, I think so. There was a split where Chovy was on Griffin, where I believe he set the KDA record.
That would make sense because Griffin never died. That team.
So I'm curious because now I don't remember how much of it was.
There's no way it's from kills. Griffin played way too low. He died. Was way too combined.
But that would be the only other time where I thought like, oh, okay, like, and that season was insane from Chovy, and it's actually, in my opinion, before he was a player who could also read the map as well as he does now. So
yeah, because that would have been, I can check it right now. That was 2019 summer probably, and
yeah, when KT Rolster actually, or no, that was 2019.
No, that was so Griffin was an 8.5 KDA, which means it was potentially spring.
I think it was spring because summer they had the little.
A little.
And then by the time they were at Worlds, they were
10.7 KDA issues. But he had 134 kills across 39 games, so it's like 134 divided by 39.
Yeah, no,
is like 3.4 kills per game, half as many as Knight.
Yeah,
while setting the KDA record. It's ridiculous how many kills he has, and I know the LPL is like always like a slightly higher kill region, but not like this. Not like this.
No,
I don't know.
No, this is like a complete statistical anomaly, and I think like. I personally pulled some stats just to showcase how everything in the LPL has kind of had to go through Knight, because I think people now talk about BLG as a powerhouse, but they didn't actually start doing well until they had this kind of roster of misfits in 2023.
Okay.
That's when Yagao was on the roster and Tabe was the coach, right?
Yeah.
And they came in second to JDG, who had Knight. So since Knight joined BLG, he got them their first LPL title, right? The first ever. They've been trying so hard to get an LPL title onto this org. 2024 spring, they win. 2024 summer, they win. They come in second at the World Championship that year.
In Game 5.
Yeah. They then win. They've also won titles in 2025 summer, because we had the whole Beichuan Shadow thing last year, where Shin was not on the roster. Now he's back on the roster. 2026 winter or split 1, and 2026 split 2. So of the 7 possible titles thus far since Knight joined the team, they've won 5 of them.
Wow.
The other 2 went to TES and AL.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, this guy is insane. And together, just with Shun, they showed a stat in finals, I believe, where together in the LPL they passed 1,500 kills, like combined as a jungle mid duo, I believe. So yeah, it's like it's kind of insane. He now has 8 total LPL titles. He's won finals MVP 5 times. And now BLG has 5 titles, and that puts them 1 title away from tying with EDG for the most LPL titles.
That's some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That's some pretty, and now they're still eligible for the Golden Road, which you probably don't want to talk about yet. But I mean, it's harder than it's ever been because it's 6 now instead of 4 that you have to win consecutively. They, nearly lost it to WE. They were a game away. But I mean, if Knight plays like this, and if Bin plays well at international events, what's the question mark? It's Viper, right? It's been a little weird with this team.
Yeah, so like it's kind of odd because you look at this team and you're like, they're just all like this entire roster. They're just so good, top to bottom, right? And it's weird calling Viper the quote unquote like worst performer because it's like he's still really, really good. I think compared to like his own expectations, he probably hasn't had the playoffs run that he would want. I know he did in the time off that they have go back to Korea for like a chronic hand injury, I believe. I don't know if
it's a little ominous. It's
been
hard to find information on it.
But yeah, then he has like just this insane Caitlyn game that makes everyone forget about it, right? So
sure.
I think when you talk about him being like the worst performer on this team, it's like, okay, well, compared to the way everyone else has been performing, it's just that the standard is so high. I also think there are times where Bin can get caught out inside still. And we saw that at first stand too, even though he was kind of just dumpstering so many of his opponents. He does have that tendency still, so they kind of have to watch out for that. But the way this team likes to play is they like Knight just basically wins mid, or he holds mid as a control point, right? And then you have Shun and On, who On kind of wants to detach himself from lane as quickly as possible to cause chaos on the map. Especially now that increasingly we're seeing, I mean, previously he was already playing the Shen support, he was already playing the Anivia support, but like we're seing Camille, he played Skarner, which I think everyone was taking notes of. They're like Skarner support. But in a world where you can play a lot of different things and kind of detach yourself, especially with an AD carry like Viper, who can kind of handle his own if he's playing like comparatively weak side, right? You have this like recipe for Shun and On to just absolutely take over the map early.
Right.
And again, like if you kind of just want to see like a really quick, easy, successful implementation of this, there's so many, but like the first game of finals, I think is just a really easy one to point to with how much chaos he was able to create on that Camille support, leaving lane super early to just kind of roam around. I know when Isaac was reviewing it, he just like sent me a screenshot and he was like, what is he doing? It was just like him in on topside jungle. So yeah, you absolutely have to watch out for that because they are together, that jungle support duo,
right.
Shin and On, are so formidable, and their solo laners are so formidable. And then Viper's also so formidable. So this is a team that really I said that they're closer to the quintessential LPL team mainly because they all believe in their own hands and there's no reason why they shouldn't, right?
Right.
And so that does mean sometimes, regardless of draft or regardless of state of game, they will just try to hands check you.
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, even if it looks like a disadvantageous position for them, they will still win because they're that good. So yeah, that is the difficulty of facing this BLG team.
Based off your description, though, with Viper and, you know, the way Knight dominates mid so hard and the way Bin always wants to play super aggressive, but specifically the way On wants to enter the map early, if I compare that with the way Viper played last year on HLE, where Aux was calling them Viper Life Esports, and he was just this, like, you play around Viper. That's what you do. They're not playing around Viper. Like, he's there. He's still good. But it almost seems like the team is just not operating that way. So it's almost like he's playing a little bit out of position, in a sense.
I mean, they can. It's weird because they also just have these games where they decide, okay, we're just going to 2v2 bot super, super hard. Right? Like,
so they'll just pivot and be that team for a second.
Yeah. And you saw that. And again, the luxury of having the players that they have is that they can do that. Like, it's actually infuriating sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
well, the analogy I was going to ask, and I just want to throw this in there. Do you remember in the early 2000s when the Yankees put A-Rod to third base because they already had Jeter at shortstop?
Yes.
I don't know. That's kind of like having Viper on this team. Like, you could just have some weak side 80 carry and you'd still be super good, but they just decided to have Viper instead.
Yeah, I mean, Viper is still like I said, like insane in team fights. I also think the big thing that they can do that you saw them do a lot with Elk too, who, by the way, is still very good.
It's still amazing.
Is they can just play through 2v2 bot and just decide like, okay, we're gonna do, I don't know, Caitlyn Lux or Caitlyn Elise, and we are just gonna dumpster you, and we're going to dive bot as two in a 2v2. And that was kind of a hallmark of their play previously as well when it was On and Elk. And so they also have that ability if they want. But yeah, I think the bigger thing to talk about going into this tournament is definitely like Knight and just how well he's been performing. And again, just how much leeway that gives you. Like, mid lane is so important. Like, it's so important in League of Legends as a game. And there are so many small things that come from, you're like, why can Chun do these risky invades? Why can On be in the top lane at 4 minutes or whatever? Like, yes, part of it is that Viper is going to play safely and it's going to be fine. But also part of it is that, like, the mid lane is just so solid that you don't have to worry about the map essentially getting caved in and then seeding pressure where you're then easily punished because mid lane is no longer a point that you can rely on. So sorry, I'm like doing all these hand gestures.
I can see the side of your hand, but it, you know, a lot of people watch on audio only as well, so it's fine for the Spotify listeners. Okay, I did the same thing with Aux.
Italian-American, so it's a thing.
I did the same thing with Aux. Where do you have your? I mean, it's really top three. Like, there's 5 teams that we're going to say can win MSI at the moment with G2 and TES, because, you know, you can imagine a world, but like, it's BLG, HLE, and T1 that are the true contenders, I feel like.
Yes.
So who is your MSI favorite going in?
I would say like HLE and BLG are kind of like here. And then T1, like, again, because I know T1 fans are probably going to get really mad at me. But obviously they can still easily win the tournament. I would put them here, and then G2, like TES.
Yeah.
I think the two tournament favorites.
I don't think so. I think TES.
No, I mean, like, it's kind of like I have HLE. It's a weird, like,
you need to draw it.
Draw it out now. Yeah. My hand is really
I know, your
cramping my
broken hand.
style. Yeah, but basically, like, I think HLE BLG should be the
top.
two tournament favorites, like
Yeah.
coming in, and then T1 right behind them, and like a G2 TES
Yep.
tier right behind
That's
that.
fair. That's fair. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I wonder. The LPL has won more MSIs than the LCK, which I always find really interesting. And I don't even think it's that cherry picked of a statistic. It's actually just if you remove T1's miracle runs at Worlds, it's actually been way more even between LPL and LCK than people are willing to give credit for. So I just feel like with the quality of how Knight is playing, what Bin did at First Stand, and the fact that they also then have Viper. Like, I don't see a true weakness for this team. I see no reason why the HLE or T1 should be favored over them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is, and we saw a successful version of it, like I said, with Team WE. We saw an unsuccessful version of it, I think, with JDG. If you look back at their series with BLG, where what they were trying to do was something similar, right? Where they're attacking mid, they're trying to put Knight behind, keep BLG essentially either in lane or focused on what they're doing so they can't take over the map. And I think that ended up being unsuccessful just because JDG's players aren't as strong as BLG's players. And they didn't have as focused of a game plan as I thought WE did around the way that they were going to play around Monkey and bring Airhut into it.
Yeah.
But I do think that this BLG team is not without weaknesses, but they are incredibly formidable, like baseline, just because of who is on this roster. And then the next level is just how they've evolved to play as a unit, especially with Shun and On having really strong synergy across the split.
Okay. I think that's it.
And also I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
Fearless Draft also just opens up so many opportunities for this team, right? Like, I think it's always really interesting to look at a player like On or a player like Carria and see how much Fearless really like elevates them almost, because they can actually play so many different things.
I appreciate you taking the time. We do need to do this more
thank
often.
you for having me.
You keep actually
saying,
I'm always like, when are we talking
I'm always
about
like in the green room, like, when are we going to do the LPL thing? And you're just like, I don't know.
Pretty busy with the child. Well,
I
it'll
can't
calm
wait
down
to see.
eventually.
I can't wait to see what you and Vidius do for your like full MSI preview.
It's going to be tough.
I did see the format rant. That was fun.
Well, on that note, HLE has an easier format. They get to play first round either TSW or Furia. It's one of those two.
Yeah.
Whereas BLG probably plays T1 right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that statistically makes BLG a little bit less likely to win, even if they're still a super strong team. Because the last 3 years, the winner has never, this is probably a stupid stat, winners never come from lower bracket in MSI, ever. JDG and Double Genji all upper bracketed all the way to the end.
That's true.
So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think you get the lower bracket momentum at MSI because the tournament's so fast, right? That like advantage of coming up through lower bracket and being warm. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty of time to talk about this at MSI.
Woo.
See you soon, Emily. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye.